Fans are shocked tonight, and the internet is absolutely on fire, as whispers of a scandal too explosive to ignore ripple through reality TV circles. What started as a late-night rumor has erupted into a full-blown online frenzy, with timelines flooded, group chats buzzing, and jaws dropping everywhere. Allegedly, intimate clips involving Mena and Mendeecees Harris have surfaced, sending shockwaves straight into the heart of a marriage many believed was unbreakable. And now, the biggest question tearing through fandoms like wildfire is this: is this the real reason Yandy Smith finally pulled the plug and filed for divorce? Sources, who claim to be close but refuse to be named, say the alleged leak didn't just appear. It detonated. Screenshots were whispered about before anyone dared to post. Audio snippets were rumored to exist before they were mysteriously deleted. And in the middle of it all, fans swear they noticed something chilling: silence. No denials, no explanations, just a carefully curated calm that only made the speculation louder. Emotions ran high as viewers replayed old episodes, dissected old interviews, and questioned everything they thought they knew. Behind closed doors, the drama was allegedly anything but quiet. Friends claim phones were thrown, voices were raised, and trust was shattered in ways that can't be repaired. This changes everything, one insider supposedly said, hinting that the fallout wasn't just marital, it was familial. The family was left divided, with loyalties tested and lines drawn. Was this betrayal years in the making? Or a single reckless moment that set off a chain reaction no one could stop? As the rumor mill churned, fans began connecting dots at lightning speed. That sudden unfollow, that cryptic caption, that interview where eyes darted just a little too quickly. Coincidence? Or clues hiding in plain sight? Some supporters rushed to defend, insisting nothing had been confirmed. Others weren't so patient, demanding answers and accountability. And right in the center of it all stood three lives, entangled by fame, history, and a past that refuses to stay buried. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the alleged leak that has everyone talking, the private confrontations that reportedly turned explosive, and the moment insiders say changed everything forever. Buckle up, because if even half of what's being whispered is true, this may be the most jaw-dropping reality TV scandal we've seen in years. The night everything allegedly fell apart did not begin with shouting or accusations but with a single vibration of a phone on a kitchen counter. According to sources who swear they witnessed the unraveling from the inside, Yandy Smith was standing alone, scrolling absent-mindedly, when a message request appeared from an unfamiliar account. At first, she ignored it. Then another came, and another. Fans are shocked to learn that curiosity, that one small moment of hesitation, may have been the spark that ignited a fire no one could control. When she finally opened the message, what she allegedly saw made her hands go cold. A video thumbnail, a familiar face, and a name she never expected to see connected to her husband again. Inside that short, grainy clip, insiders claim, was Mendeecees Harris, unmistakable in voice and appearance, engaged in what appeared to be an intimate exchange with none other than Mena. Emotions ran high as Yandy reportedly replayed it again and again, hoping she was mistaken, hoping it was some elaborate fake. But the longer she watched, the harder it became to deny the sinking feeling in her chest. Sources say she whispered, "This can't be real," over and over, as if saying it enough times might make it true. What viewers never saw was the quiet storm that followed. Instead of immediately confronting Mendeecees, Yandy allegedly sat with the information for hours, letting every memory replay in her mind. Every argument that was brushed off. Every late-night call explained away. Every time Erica's name had come up in the past and been dismissed as old history. Friends say this wasn't just about a clip, it was about years of unresolved tension that suddenly felt painfully relevant. The family was left divided almost instantly, as Yandy reportedly reached out to a trusted friend, her voice shaking, asking one question: "Do you think this is why everything has felt off?" Meanwhile, the internet was already buzzing, though no one could quite trace where the leak began. Anonymous accounts teased receipts, hinting that something major was coming. Fans are shocked at how quickly speculation spread, with comments dissecting old episodes, pausing scenes, and reading between lines that once seemed harmless. Some claimed they always sensed unfinished business between Erica and Mendeecees. Others insisted this was impossible, an attempt to stir chaos where there was none. But behind the scenes, insiders allege the chaos was very real. When Mendeecees finally walked into the house that night, sources say the air was heavy. Yandy reportedly didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply held up the phone and asked, "Do you want to tell me what this is?" Witnesses claim his face drained of color as soon as he saw the screen. There was a long pause, the kind that feels louder than any argument. "Where did you get that?" he allegedly asked, avoiding the question entirely. That moment, according to insiders, was when something inside Yandy shifted. Trust didn't crack, it shattered. The confrontation escalated quickly. Voices were raised. Accusations flew. Mendeecees allegedly swore the clips were old, taken out of context, or manipulated. Yandy fired back, asking why Erica would be involved at all if there was truly nothing there. "Why her?" she reportedly demanded. "Out of everyone in the world, why does her name keep coming back into our marriage?" Emotions ran high as years of resentment poured out in minutes. Neighbors later claimed they heard shouting through closed windows, a stark contrast to the carefully controlled image fans were used to seeing. Across town, Erica was allegedly dealing with her own fallout. Sources close to her claim she woke up to dozens of missed calls and messages, many of them accusatory, some threatening. Fans are shocked to hear that Erica reportedly denied leaking anything herself, insisting she had no idea how the clips surfaced. "This was never meant to be public," she allegedly told a friend, her voice breaking. But even among her inner circle, doubts crept in. Some questioned whether old wounds had been intentionally reopened. Others wondered if someone else stood to gain from dragging the past into the spotlight. As the night stretched on, Yandy reportedly packed a small bag and left the house. Not for drama, insiders insist, but for clarity. She needed space to breathe, to think, to decide whether this was something that could ever be forgiven. Mendeecees, left behind, allegedly called her phone repeatedly, each unanswered ring fueling panic. "Just talk to me," he texted, according to screenshots that would later circulate among friends. But Yandy wasn't ready to hear explanations. Not yet. By morning, the story had taken on a life of its own. Fans are shocked at how fast whispers turned into headlines, with blogs hinting at divorce papers and insiders confirming marital collapse. Yandy, still silent publicly, was reportedly bombarded with calls from producers, friends, and family, all asking the same thing: "Is it over?" Those close to her say she didn't answer. Instead, she stared out a car window, replaying that first moment again, the vibration of a phone, the clip that changed everything, and the realization that some betrayals, real or perceived, can never be unseen. The silence that followed was louder than any argument they had ever had before. According to insiders, Yandy didn't go to a friend's house or a hotel that night. She drove aimlessly for hours, replaying every moment of her relationship, every sacrifice, every public defense she had ever made for Mendeecees. Fans are shocked to learn that at one point she pulled over, gripping the steering wheel, whispering to herself, "How did I miss this?" The pain wasn't just about betrayal, it was about humiliation. Knowing that if the clips were real, the world would soon be watching her heartbreak frame by frame. Back at the house, Mendeecees allegedly spiraled. Sources say he paced from room to room, replaying the confrontation in his head, convinced that if he had just explained things differently, the outcome might have changed. He reportedly called Erica late that night, his voice tense, demanding to know what she had done. "Why now?" he allegedly asked. Erica, caught off guard, supposedly shot back, "Don't put this on me. I didn't send anything to anyone." The call ended abruptly, leaving both sides furious and afraid of what would come next. By sunrise, Yandy had made a decision that stunned those closest to her. Instead of returning home, she allegedly called a lawyer. Not to file immediately, insiders say, but to understand her options. Emotions ran high as she asked questions she never imagined asking. "If I stay, what does that mean for me? If I leave, how public does this get?" The reality of her life being dissected by strangers hit her all at once. The family was left divided before breakfast, with some relatives urging her to fight for her marriage and others quietly telling her she deserved better. Meanwhile, the internet was already choosing sides. Fans are shocked at how quickly timelines filled with old clips of Erica and Mendeecees slowed down, analyzed, and turned into so-called evidence. Comments poured in, some defending Yandy fiercely, others accusing her of ignoring red flags for years. A few even turned on Erica, calling her calculated, accusing her of enjoying the chaos. Erica, for her part, allegedly felt cornered. Sources say she locked herself inside her home, scrolling through hateful messages, insisting to friends that she was being set up as the villain in someone else's story. The tension exploded again when Yandy finally agreed to meet Mendeecees face to face. Not at home, but in a neutral space, away from cameras and ears. Witnesses claim the air was thick with unresolved anger. Mendeecees reportedly walked in first, eyes tired, shoulders slumped. When Yandy arrived, she didn't hug him. She didn't even sit close. "I need the truth," she said calmly, which insiders claim scared him more than if she had yelled. "Not your version. Not excuses. The truth." Mendeecees allegedly insisted again that the clips were old, that they predated their marriage, that they meant nothing now. Yandy listened, expression unreadable, then quietly asked, "Then why wasn't I told?" That question, according to sources, left him speechless. Fans are shocked to hear that what hurt her most wasn't just the possibility of infidelity, but the idea that pieces of his past were still powerful enough to destroy their present. "I stood by you when the world judged you," she reportedly said. "And this is what comes back to me." The conversation turned even darker when Yandy brought up Erica directly. "Did you ever really close that door?" she asked. Mendeecees denied any recent contact, but hesitation in his answers reportedly fueled her doubts. Emotions ran high as she accused him of minimizing her pain. "You keep telling me it's nothing," she said, voice shaking, "but nothing just blew up my entire life." By the end of the meeting, insiders say there was no resolution, only exhaustion. Erica, sensing the walls closing in, allegedly tried to reach out to Yandy herself. Sources claim she sent a long message, explaining her side, insisting there was no current relationship, no secret agenda. Fans are shocked to learn that Yandy never responded. Not out of spite, but because she felt any interaction would pull her deeper into a narrative she no longer wanted to be part of. To her, the damage was already done. As days passed, the cracks became impossible to hide. Mendeecees reportedly moved out temporarily, telling friends it was to give Yandy space, though others believe it was a silent acknowledgement that things were past the point of repair. Paparazzi sightings fueled rumors, with every solo appearance analyzed as a sign of separation. The family was left divided, children confused, asking questions no parent is ever ready to answer. Behind closed doors, Yandy struggled with guilt as much as anger. Insiders say she questioned whether she had ignored warning signs, whether fame had blurred her instincts. "I feel stupid," she allegedly admitted to a close friend. "And I hate that I feel that way." Fans are shocked to hear that despite everything, she still worried about how a public split would affect Mendeecees, even as she felt betrayed by him. By the end of the week, one thing was clear to those watching closely. This was no longer just about leaked clips. It was about trust eroded over time, about past relationships refusing to stay buried, and about a woman standing at a crossroads, deciding whether love was enough to outweigh the pain. And as whispers of legal filings began to circulate, the world leaned in, waiting for the next move, unaware that the deepest wounds were still to come. The rumors didn't just linger, they multiplied. Every hour that passed without a public statement felt like confirmation to the outside world that something catastrophic had happened. Insiders say Yandy tried to shield herself from the noise, but it was impossible. Notifications flooded her phone nonstop, friends forwarding posts with captions like, "This explains everything," and "We knew it." Fans are shocked at how quickly public opinion hardened, turning speculation into assumed truth. What hurt the most, according to those close to her, was seeing strangers debate her pain like entertainment, turning her real life into a storyline she never agreed to write. Mendeecees, meanwhile, was reportedly fighting his own battle. Sources say he felt trapped between defending himself and staying silent to avoid making things worse. "Anything I say will be twisted," he allegedly told a friend. He watched as his past was dragged up, dissected, and repackaged as proof of guilt. Old mistakes resurfaced like ghosts, reminding him that no matter how much time passed, they were never truly gone. Emotions ran high as he questioned whether his marriage had been doomed by history long before the clips ever surfaced. The pressure intensified when more alleged footage began circulating in whispers. Nothing concrete, nothing officially confirmed, but enough to keep the fire burning. Blogs teased Part 2, hinting that more was coming. Fans are shocked at how suspense became a weapon, how the promise of new revelations kept everyone glued to their screens. Yandy reportedly broke down one night, overwhelmed by the feeling that she was losing control of her own narrative. "I don't even recognize my life anymore," she allegedly said through tears. Friends tried to intervene, arranging conversations, urging calm, hoping reason could still win. One close confidant allegedly told Yandy, "Don't make a permanent decision off someone else's mess." But Yandy struggled with the idea of staying. Every time she imagined reconciliation, the image of that clip replayed in her mind. Not just what it showed, but what it represented. Secrecy, unresolved ties, disrespect. The family was left divided as opinions clashed, some insisting forgiveness was possible, others warning that staying would mean accepting a cycle that would never truly end. Mendeecees attempted another conversation, this time more emotional, more vulnerable. Sources claim he admitted to mistakes in how he handled his past, acknowledging that he should have been more transparent. "I thought I was protecting us," he allegedly said. "I didn't think old dirt could come back like this." Yandy listened, arms crossed, tears welling but unshed. You don't get to decide what I need to be protected from, she responded quietly. That sentence, insiders say, marked a turning point. It wasn't anger anymore, it was clarity. Erica, watching the fallout from afar, reportedly felt a mix of fear and frustration. Sources say she believed she was being blamed for a collapse that had deeper roots. They're rewriting history, she allegedly told a friend. I'm the easy target. Still, she couldn't escape the role she now played in the public imagination. Fans are shocked at how vicious the commentary became, with every move she made scrutinized, every silence interpreted as guilt. Even those who defended her admitted the situation looked bad, no matter how you framed it. As days turned into weeks, Yandy began quietly preparing for a future that didn't include her marriage. Insiders say she focused on practical steps, securing finances, prioritizing her children, and mentally bracing herself for what filing would mean. It wasn't dramatic, it was methodical, the calm before a storm she knew would be relentless. Mendeecees sensed the shift and panicked. Don't do this, he allegedly pleaded during a late-night call. We can still fix it. But Yandy had reached a point where fixing felt like erasing herself. The final straw, according to sources, came from an unexpected place. A conversation with someone who had nothing to gain from the drama. That person allegedly asked her a simple question: if this never happened, would you still feel at peace? Yandy reportedly realized the answer was no. The leak didn't create the doubt. It exposed it. Emotions ran high as she confronted that truth, mourning not just the relationship, but the version of herself who believed love could override everything. When word quietly spread that legal papers were being drafted, the reaction was immediate. Fans are shocked to hear that even before anything was official, congratulatory messages and condolences poured in, as if the outcome was already decided. The family was left divided once more, bracing for the public confirmation everyone knew was coming. Yandy, alone one evening, looked at her reflection and whispered, I tried. Not for the cameras, not for the blogs, but for herself. And as she prepared to take the next step, unaware of the twists still ahead, one thing was certain. This story was far from over. The tension reached a breaking point when the quiet preparation collided with public exposure. Despite Yandy's efforts to keep things contained, a single leaked detail about consultations with lawyers set off another wave of chaos. Fans are shocked at how fast speculation turned into certainty, with blogs declaring the marriage officially over before any statement was made. Yandy woke up to headlines written as facts, not questions, and for the first time she felt robbed of the chance to speak on her own terms. Emotions ran high as she realized silence was no longer protecting her, it was suffocating her. Mendeecees felt the shift immediately. Sources say he showed up unannounced one afternoon, desperate, insisting they needed to talk before the world decided for them. Yandy didn't turn him away, but she didn't soften either. This isn't about what they think, she said calmly. This is about what I feel. He tried to reach for her hand and she pulled back, not dramatically, just enough to make the distance undeniable. The family was left divided even in that room, with love still present but trust nowhere to be found. He spoke about regret, about fear, about how losing her felt heavier than any consequence he had ever faced. I know I messed up, he admitted, voice cracking. But I never stopped choosing you. Yandy listened, tears finally spilling, not because she believed him, but because she wished believing him was still enough. Choosing me would have meant honesty, she replied. That sentence hung between them like a verdict. Fans are shocked to hear that after that moment, there were no more raised voices, only quiet acceptance that something irreversible had occurred. Outside their circle, reactions grew louder and more polarized. Supporters dissected every word, every body language cue from past appearances, claiming they saw the signs all along. Critics accused Yandy of dragging things out for sympathy, while others accused Mendeecees of gaslighting and minimizing her pain. Erica, still caught in the crossfire, reportedly felt the pressure closing in. She avoided public places, limited her social media presence, and leaned heavily on a small group of friends who urged her to stay quiet. Anything you say will be used against you, one allegedly warned. Yet the silence didn't stop the narrative from evolving. Rumors shifted from leaked clips to secret meetings, from old footage to supposed recent encounters. Fans are shocked at how quickly imagination filled the gaps left by facts. Yandy, watching it all unfold, felt a strange detachment. They're arguing over a version of my life that doesn't exist, she allegedly said. But even that awareness couldn't shield her children from the fallout, from questions overheard, from classmates repeating things they didn't understand. The weight of that reality pushed Yandy toward a decision she had been circling for weeks. Insiders say the moment came late at night, after putting the kids to bed, sitting alone in the quiet. She opened her laptop, stared at a blank screen, and felt an unexpected calm. This wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was resolve. Emotions ran high, but beneath them was clarity. Staying, she realized, would mean constantly reliving the betrayal. Leaving meant pain, but also the possibility of peace. Mendeecees sensed it before she ever said the words. When she finally told him she was moving forward, he didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply nodded, tears streaming freely. "I never wanted to be the reason you lost yourself," he said softly. Yandy replied, "Neither did I." In that exchange, the love they once shared was evident, but so was the truth that love alone couldn't undo what had been broken. Erica learned of the decision through the same channels as everyone else. Sources say she sat in silence for a long time, processing the idea that something from her past had played a role in dismantling a family. Whether she felt guilt, anger, or defensiveness depended on who you asked. Fans are shocked to hear that she reportedly questioned her own memories, wondering if things she once considered closed chapters had never truly been sealed. As preparations moved quietly forward, Yandy focused on rebuilding a sense of normalcy. She avoided public commentary, choosing instead to pour her energy into work and motherhood. But every step forward was met with another wave of speculation. The family was left divided again as some relatives urged reconciliation one last time, while others praised her strength for walking away. Through it all, Yandy held firm, reminding herself that choosing herself wasn't an act of betrayal but survival. By the time the papers were ready, the storm outside had reached a fever pitch. Fans are shocked at how something that began as a whispered leak evolved into a cultural moment, a cautionary tale, and a battleground of opinions. Yet inside, for Yandy, there was a strange quiet. Not happiness, not relief, but acceptance. She knew the next chapter would be hard, and that the world would continue to speculate, judge, and take sides. But for the first time since that phone vibrated on the counter, she felt like the story was hers again, even as the consequences of that night continued to ripple outward, setting the stage for an aftermath no one could yet fully see. The aftermath didn't arrive with a bang but with a slow, relentless pressure that seeped into every corner of their lives. Once the decision was made, there was no dramatic announcement, no joint statement crafted to soften the blow. Instead, there was a quiet understanding between them that whatever happened next would be messy, public, and largely out of their control. Fans are shocked at how quickly that understanding was tested. Within days, details that were supposed to remain private began surfacing, each leak reigniting the fire that never fully went out. Yandy felt exposed in ways she never had before. Sources say she became hyper-aware of every glance, every whisper, every headline written as if it knew her heart better than she did. Emotions ran high as she grappled with the realization that walking away didn't mean escaping the pain, it meant carrying it differently. She questioned herself constantly. Was she too harsh? Was she too patient? Did she wait too long or not long enough? The family was left divided not only between sides but between versions of the truth that could never fully align. Mendeecees, on the other hand, struggled with the weight of being labeled the villain. Friends say he oscillated between anger and remorse, sometimes insisting he was misunderstood, other times admitting he had failed in ways he couldn't undo. "I lost my family," he allegedly said one night, staring at his phone filled with messages he didn't know how to answer. Fans are shocked to hear that despite everything, he still defended Yandy publicly when criticism turned cruel, insisting she did what she had to do. That contradiction only added to the confusion surrounding him. The speculation around the alleged clips refused to die. Even without new material, the idea of them took on a life of its own. People described scenes they had never seen, details that were never confirmed, as if repetition alone could turn rumor into fact. Yandy felt haunted by something she never chose to watch again. She avoided mirrors, avoided music, avoided moments of stillness where her thoughts could catch up to her. Emotions ran high as she admitted to a friend that the worst part wasn't what people believed, but that she could no longer tell where her own certainty ended and doubt began. Erica remained a constant, looming presence in the narrative, whether she wanted to be or not. Sources say she wrestled with resentment at being dragged into the collapse of someone else's marriage while also acknowledging that her history made her an easy symbol. "I can't erase the past," she allegedly said. Fans are shocked to hear that she considered speaking out, telling her full side of the story, but ultimately decided against it, fearing it would only inflame things further. Her silence, however, was interpreted in every possible way, none of them kind. As weeks passed, the practical realities of separation set in. Schedules changed, routines were rewritten, Conversations became transactional, focused on logistics rather than emotions. Yandy found herself grieving in unexpected moments, like when she reached for her phone out of habit or heard a joke she would have once shared first with him. The family was left divided in quieter ways now, through awkward gatherings and conversations that avoided the obvious. Fans are shocked at how grief can exist even when the decision feels right. There were moments of anger too. Flashes of it that caught Yandy off guard. Anger at the leak, at the people who spread it, at the way her life became content. She fantasized about confronting everyone at once, about reclaiming her story in one explosive moment. But those close to her say she resisted, choosing restraint over spectacle. "I don't want to become this," she allegedly said, gesturing toward a screen filled with commentary. That restraint, however, came at a cost, forcing her to sit with feelings she couldn't release publicly. Mendeecees tried to rebuild some sense of normalcy, but every attempt felt fragile. A casual outing turned into a photo op. A simple post sparked debates about his intentions. Fans are shocked at how unforgiving public memory can be, how one narrative can eclipse every other version of a person. He reportedly questioned whether redemption was even possible when the internet had already decided his role. Yet privately, he carried his own grief, mourning not just the relationship but the future he thought was guaranteed. Through it all, Yandy leaned into her children, drawing strength from their routines and their unfiltered honesty. They asked questions she couldn't answer cleanly, questions that didn't fit into headlines or soundbites. Explaining separation without assigning blame proved harder than any interview ever had. Emotions ran high as she reassured them again and again that love didn't disappear, it just changed shape. Those moments grounded her, reminding her why she chose peace over pretending. Just when it seemed the storm might finally begin to settle, a new rumor surfaced, hinting at a possible reconciliation or, alternatively, an even deeper betrayal yet to be revealed. Fans are shocked at how quickly hope and outrage reignited, as if the story demanded constant escalation. Yandy, exhausted, laughed bitterly when she heard. "They need this to keep going," she allegedly said. But for her, the story had already reached its core truth. Whatever else emerged would be noise. As she prepared for the next phase of her life, Yandy accepted that closure wouldn't come from public understanding or universal support. It would come from living forward, from building something new out of the wreckage. The family was left divided still, but the lines were softening, shaped more by time than anger. And though the world continued to speculate, argue, and assign blame, Yandy knew one thing with certainty now. The leak didn't define her ending. It forced her beginning. The beginning didn't feel triumphant. It felt fragile. Yandy woke up each day unsure of what version of herself she would meet. Some mornings she felt strong, certain she had made the only choice that allowed her to breathe again. Other mornings the weight of everything pressed down so hard she struggled to get out of bed. Fans are shocked to hear that strength and doubt lived side by side, not as opposites but as companions. Emotions ran high in private moments no one would ever film, when she allowed herself to mourn the future she once planned in detail. The world, however, didn't slow down to match her pace. Commentary grew louder, more aggressive, more definitive. People spoke as if they had been in the room, as if they knew exactly what had happened, what was real, what was fabricated. Yandy learned quickly that correcting every lie was impossible. Each correction sparked 10 new theories. The family was left divided not just by loyalty but by exhaustion, some choosing silence, others choosing to fight narratives they believed were unfair. Mendeecees watched all of this from a distance that felt both necessary and unbearable. Sources say he wanted to speak, to explain, to reclaim some piece of his image, but every draft of a statement felt wrong. Too defensive, too late, too incomplete. Fans are shocked at how often he reportedly deleted posts before publishing them, aware that anything he said would be filtered through suspicion. Privately, he wrestled with guilt that went beyond public judgment. Guilt for what he lost. Guilt for what he put others through. Guilt for realizing too late that intentions don't outweigh impact. Their interactions became minimal, careful, focused strictly on co-parenting. Even then, emotions ran high beneath the surface. Small exchanges carried years of shared history, and sometimes silence hurt more than confrontation ever did. Yandy found herself needing to relearn who she was without constant negotiation, without compromise shaped by survival. It was liberating and terrifying at the same time. The family was left divided in subtle ways, adjusting to new rhythms, new traditions, new absences. Erica, though no longer directly involved, remained an unavoidable shadow in the public imagination. Her name surfaced whenever the story needed a spark, a villain, or a twist. Fans are shocked at how narratives clung to her, regardless of evidence or denial. She reportedly grew numb to it, telling a friend that being misunderstood felt inevitable now. People don't want truth, she allegedly said. They want a story that makes sense, and in stories like these, complexity rarely survives. Time passed, but healing didn't follow a straight line. There were setbacks, moments when Yandy questioned whether peace was worth the loneliness that sometimes followed. Moments when Mendeecees convinced himself that if he had one more chance, one more conversation, things could be different. But those thoughts faded as reality asserted itself. Some doors, once closed, don't reopen. Not because of pride, but because reopening them would require erasing lessons learned the hard way. Fans are shocked to hear that what ultimately brought Yandy the most clarity had nothing to do with public support or criticism. It was a quiet realization during an ordinary day. She was laughing, genuinely laughing, and for a second she forgot the weight she had been carrying. That moment didn't erase the past, but it showed her the future wasn't defined by it either. Emotions ran high as she recognized that joy didn't mean betrayal of her pain. It meant survival. Mendeecees faced his own reckoning. Away from the noise, he confronted patterns he had long ignored. The temptation to minimize. The belief that time could bury anything. The assumption that love would automatically translate into forgiveness. Fans are shocked at how much introspection followed, how loss forced growth he hadn't pursued willingly. Whether that growth would ever be visible to the public remained uncertain, but privately it reshaped how he saw himself. Eventually, the story lost its urgency for the audience. Another scandal emerged. Another headline took its place. But for those living it, the impact remained. The family was left divided in memory, stitched back together in new configurations, learning how to function without pretending nothing had changed. Yandy no longer waited for closure to arrive from outside. She understood now that closure is something you build, piece by piece, through boundaries, honesty, and time. Looking back, the leak became less of a defining moment and more of a catalyst. It didn't create the cracks, but it exposed them. It forced conversations that had been postponed too long. It ended something, but it also made room for something else. Fans are shocked to hear that in hindsight, Yandy no longer described that night as the worst moment of her life. She called it the moment everything stopped being a lie. And while questions lingered, as they always do, Yandy learned to live without answering them all. She didn't need the world to agree with her choice. She needed to stand by it. Mendeecees learned that accountability doesn't come from convincing others, but from accepting consequences without excuses. Erica learned that silence can be both a shield and a sentence. In the end, there was no dramatic finale, no clear villain, no perfect victim. Just people, flawed and human, navigating the wreckage of love under a microscope. Emotions ran high until they softened into understanding. The family was left divided, then redefined. And as the noise faded, what remained was a quiet truth none of the headlines could capture. Sometimes the most explosive moments don't destroy you. They force you to finally see yourself, and once you do, there is no going back. The quiet didn't last. Just when it seemed the story had finally loosened its grip, another ripple moved through the same circles that had never really let it go. Someone close to the situation hinted that there were still truths left unspoken, not because they were explosive, but because they were complicated. Fans are shocked at how even the suggestion of unfinished business was enough to pull everyone back in. It proved that endings in real life rarely arrive cleanly, especially when pride, regret, and history are involved. Yandy felt it immediately, that familiar tightening in her chest when she realized the past was knocking again. She had worked so hard to build a rhythm that didn't revolve around reacting. Mornings were calmer, nights were quieter, but hearing that whispers were resurfacing stirred emotions she thought she had already processed. Emotions ran high as she reminded herself that she didn't owe anyone clarity beyond her own peace. Still, there was a part of her that resented how easily her healing could be interrupted by someone else's need for a narrative. Mendeecees heard the same whispers and felt a different kind of weight. For him, unresolved truths felt like unfinished sentences, hanging in the air, misinterpreted by everyone except the people who lived them. He considered reaching out, not to fix anything, but to acknowledge the damage more openly. Fans are shocked to learn that even the idea of accountability felt risky, knowing it could be reframed as manipulation or self-pity. Emotions ran high as he wrestled with the realization that sometimes the right thing to do brings no redemption at all. Their paths crossed briefly at an event neither could avoid. No cameras were supposed to be there, but word traveled fast. Witnesses described the moment as restrained, almost painfully polite. No tension on the surface, no warmth either. Just two people acknowledging shared history without reopening it. Yandy nodded. Mendeecees nodded back. That was it. Fans are shocked at how such a small interaction sparked hours of debate online, with people reading meaning into eye contact, posture, and timing. The family was left divided again, not by conflict but by interpretation. Erica's name surfaced once more, dragged back into conversations she hadn't participated in for months. She reportedly sighed when she heard, less angry now, more tired. "It's like I'm frozen in time for them," she allegedly said. Fans are shocked at how rarely people allowed her any evolution, any complexity beyond the role assigned to her. Emotions ran high privately as she questioned whether moving on was even possible when strangers refused to let the past stay where it belonged. As time continued its uneven march, Yandy leaned deeper into boundaries. She stopped explaining. She stopped defending. She let misunderstandings exist without correcting them. That choice wasn't easy. It required accepting that some people would always believe the worst version of the story. Emotions ran high in the early days of that decision, but slowly, relief followed. Silence, she learned, could be power when chosen, not forced. Mendeecees found himself facing quieter consequences. Invitations slowed. Conversations felt more guarded. He realized that reputations don't shatter loudly, they erode slowly. Fans are shocked to hear that this was harder for him than public backlash. Losing casual trust, being met with hesitation instead of warmth, forced reflection he couldn't avoid. He began understanding that repair doesn't happen on demand, and some things, once lost, don't return in the same form. The children adapted in ways adults didn't expect. They normalized the new structure faster than anyone else, asking fewer questions, focusing on the present. Yandy watched them and felt both pride and heartbreak. Emotions ran high as she wondered whether resilience was learned or forced too early. Still, their laughter became her anchor, a reminder that stability isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. The public eventually moved on, but echoes remained. Every now and then, an old clip resurfaced, a comment reignited debate, a podcast speculated without new information. Fans are shocked at how stories linger long after the people inside them have changed. Yandy no longer flinched at these moments. She acknowledged them, then returned to her life. That was progress, even if it didn't look dramatic. Looking back, she understood something she couldn't see in the thick of it. The leak wasn't the center of the story. It was the interruption that forced honesty. It stripped away denial and performance, leaving only truth and choice. Emotions ran high when she finally named that for herself. She didn't regret leaving. She didn't regret loving. She regretted only the time spent doubting her own intuition. Mendeecees reached a similar understanding from the opposite side. Loss taught him what comfort never had. Accountability, he learned, isn't a statement or an apology. It's a pattern of behavior over time, with no guarantee anyone will notice. Fans are shocked to hear that this acceptance, not reconciliation, became his turning point. In the end, the story didn't close with a revelation or a confrontation. It faded, slowly, unevenly, as most real stories do. What remained were lessons, reshaped lives, and a clearer sense of self for everyone involved. The family was left divided, then rebalanced. Emotions ran high, then softened into something quieter, something sustainable. And while the world may always remember the scandal, those who lived it remember something else entirely. The moment pretending stopped. The moment choice replaced fear. The moment life, messy and imperfect, finally moved forward. Time continued doing what it always does, pulling distance between the moment and the memory, but never fully erasing it. The scandal slowly transformed from something raw and immediate into something referenced, recycled, and reinterpreted by people who no longer felt its sting. Fans are shocked at how easily pain becomes content once enough time has passed. Yandy noticed it first when she heard her own story discussed casually, almost academically, as if it belonged to someone else. Emotions ran high in that realization, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed she had moved further than the narrative ever would. She no longer flinched at the mention of names. She no longer felt the need to explain timelines or intentions. What once felt like an open wound had become a scar, visible but no longer bleeding. The family was left divided in memory, but in the present, things had settled into something functional, even peaceful. Holidays were restructured, traditions evolved, loss was acknowledged without being constantly relived. Yandy understood now that healing didn't mean forgetting, it meant not living there anymore. Mendeecees reached a similar place, though the path there was lonelier. He learned to sit with discomfort without trying to narrate his way out of it. He learned that growth doesn't always come with validation. Sometimes it comes with silence, with being unseen, with accepting that some people will never revise their opinion of you. Fans are shocked to hear that this acceptance, more than any public redemption arc, was what finally grounded him. He stopped waiting for forgiveness and focused instead on consistency. Erica, too, began to reclaim parts of herself that had been overshadowed by a story she didn't fully control. She stopped monitoring conversations that mentioned her name. She stopped bracing for impact every time the past resurfaced. Emotions ran high the first time she realized an entire day had passed without thinking about it. That absence felt like freedom. She knew some people would always associate her with the fallout, but she also knew she was more than a chapter in someone else's collapse. Occasionally, a new audience would discover the old drama and react with fresh outrage, as if it had just happened. Yandy watched this from a distance, detached. She recognized the pattern now. Outrage burned bright and fast, then moved on. What lingered were the quiet consequences that never made headlines. She had made peace with that imbalance. The family was left divided publicly, but privately, things were stable, and that mattered more than being understood by strangers. There were moments of reflection that surprised her. Moments when she acknowledged that love had existed alongside betrayal, that memories could be both genuine and painful. Emotions ran high when she allowed herself to honor the good without minimizing the harm. It wasn't contradiction, it was maturity. She no longer needed the story to be simple to feel resolved. Mendeecees carried his lessons forward, aware that accountability is lived, not announced. He stopped trying to outrun his past and focused on not repeating it. Whether anyone noticed was no longer the point. Fans are shocked to hear that peace didn't come from being believed, but from being honest with himself. Eventually, the story lost its power to provoke. It became background noise, then a reference, then history. What remained were changed people, reshaped priorities, and a shared understanding that some moments divide life into before and after. The family was left divided once but not destroyed. It reorganized, adapted, and moved forward in ways no headline could capture. In the end, the scandal wasn't remembered for what was leaked, but for what it exposed. Patterns, silences, choices delayed too long. Emotions ran high because truth finally had nowhere to hide. And while the world framed it as drama, those who lived it understood it differently. It was an ending, yes, but also an awakening. And once that happened, there was no returning to the version of life that existed before everything came into the light. Now it's your turn. After hearing every twist, every rumor, every emotional breaking point in this story, the biggest questions are still hanging in the air, and they don't have simple answers. Was this leak the real reason everything collapsed, or was it just the final crack in something that had been breaking quietly for years? Do you believe trust can ever fully return once doubt takes root, or is walking away sometimes the only form of self-respect left? Fans are shocked, divided, and still arguing, and that's exactly why your voice matters here. If you were in Yandy's position, what would you have done? Would you have stayed and tried to rebuild, knowing the world would never stop reminding you of the betrayal? Or would you have chosen peace, even if it meant starting over under a microscope? Emotions ran high throughout this story because it forces all of us to confront uncomfortable truths about love, loyalty, and the cost of silence. There are no villains written in permanent ink here, only people making choices that changed lives forever. And what about Mendeecees? Do you think accountability is enough when trust is gone, or does accountability only matter if it comes before the damage is done? Some fans say growth after loss still counts. Others believe growth that comes too late doesn't erase the harm. The family was left divided not just on screen, but in the hearts of everyone watching. Where do you stand? Then there's the role of the public. The blogs, the comments, the constant need for more details, more drama, more confirmation. Ask yourself honestly, how much of this story was shaped by what happened behind closed doors, and how much was shaped by the internet's hunger for chaos? Emotions ran high, but so did speculation. And once a narrative takes hold, can the truth ever really catch up? If this story made you question anything about relationships, trust, or even how quickly judgment spreads online, let us know. Scroll down right now and drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't hold back. Whether you agree, disagree, or feel conflicted, this is the space to say it. Read what other viewers are saying, respond, debate, and keep the conversation going. This channel thrives on your perspective, not just the headlines. And if you're still here listening, that tells us something. Stories like this don't just entertain, they connect. They remind us that behind every rumor is a real person, and behind every scandal is a choice that changed everything. So if you want more deep dives, more dramatic breakdowns, and more stories that go beyond the surface, make sure you support the channel. Hit that like button if this story kept you hooked from beginning to end. Subscribe if you want to stay updated on the next explosive breakdown before anyone else. And turn on notifications so you never miss when a new story drops, because trust us, the next one is already unfolding somewhere. Most importantly, keep watching, keep questioning, and keep sharing your voice. Because in stories like this, the drama doesn't end when the video does. It continues in every opinion, every debate, and every moment you stop and ask yourself, what would I have done?